This time on the Highland Woodworker.
And I always kind of had it in the back of my head if I could ever figure out a way to merge the two.
From building fine furniture to writing intriguing stories, Matthew Teague does it all. He invites us into his well-known workshop and opens up about his new exciting projects. Popular Woodworking's Megan Fitzpatrick has some fun facts on marking gauges that should really leave a lasting impression.
3, 2, 1.
A fast track to woodworking. Watch as these creative kids start with a block of wood and take them all the way to the Pinewood Derby's finish line. Hold on tight. It's gonna be a fun ride. This time on the Highland Woodworker. Hello, I'm Charles Brock, and I'm a Highland Woodworker. I just love Highland Woodworking in Atlanta, Georgia. It's where I get all my fine tools and a good woodworking education. Hello, Ed Sent.
Hey, Chuck, good to see you again.
So nice to see you. Ed, I've just got to wear a mask in the shop, and I have a problem with my glasses. They fog up, and I can't see what I'm doing.
I think I have just a mask for you, the Ellipse dust mask, and it'll cure that for you.
Oh, I can't wait to see it. Ed, I want to tell you, the other night, we had a bunch of Pinewood Derbies being made by Cub Scouts. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, that's like some of the first woodworking projects that kids do, actually.
Well, they were all over at my shop, and I want to show you what happened. I'm with Jim Walton, who's the Cub Master for Pack 1291, and we're going to help a bunch of Cub Scouts build their Pinewood Derbies. Jim, tell us about the Pinewood Derby.
Yes, sir. Well, this is a race that started in 1953 by a Cub Master out in Los Angeles. He decided that the soapbox derbies from back in the day was too dangerous for his younger son, so he created a small idea so they could still race cars. It's the first woodworking that the kids get to do, and it's one of the biggest events we host every year.
Yeah, that's a great point, Jim, that it's the first woodworking a lot of kids get to do. And to have parents involved and so forth, it's a great activity, great introduction to woodworking and to sportsmanship at the same time.
Definitely, definitely. And the best thing is that we really encourage our kids to be hands-on with their blocks of wood.
So they start out with a kit.
Correct. They start out with a kit. It's a simple block of wood. It does have the axles pre-cut into it, but otherwise they get 4 wheels, 4 nails, and as much imagination as they can include. But every kid gets to race multiple times down the tracks and include their cars, and many of the kids will keep these cars for life. The sky's the limit. It's what you can create or what you can think of. We should be able to shape this wood into.
I had the privilege of bringing Jim's Cub Scout troop into my shop to help get these future Pinewood prodigies into gear. Now, how many people have got the car that's going to win the Pinewood Derby? Is anybody? We got some winners here. That's great. With a little inspiration from a collection of cars on the web and some out-of-the-box thinking too, these kids, and these kids at heart, were on the right track.
You can still do this, make a longer top. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm.
Soon it was off to the bandsaw. Slice here, and a slice there. Now these cars are starting to take shape.
If anybody wants to come over here and feel what 80 grit paper feels like, come over here and get a touch on this. All right, don't drag your fingers across it too much. It will take the flesh right off your hand.
You don't want to sand across like that. It'll be hard to get rid of those marks if you sand across. So try to keep your cross sanding as little as possible. First thing you want to do is get all the flat places sanded, okay? Now, let's say this little edge right here, and see it's already getting kind of smooth. We can already see it kind of smoothing out. And then right here, we can take it and work that little edge, and now feel the edge. It's starting to smooth out a little bit. So it won't be quite so
pumping.
Yeah.
After some sanding and shaping, it's time to add a little color to these soon-to-be championship calibrated cars. Now that the wheels are tapped into place, we've been given the green light to roll on to the big race.
Good morning, everybody. We are about to get some racing going on. Who's ready for that?
At 1291, can't wait to get into the middle of the action. But before these cars are put to the test, judges gather and look over these awesome wooden autos. They are judging for original design, craftsmanship, and paint.
Just stay behind the tape. And boys, when you put your car up here, if you go down on this side, folks, you may want to watch your feet and let the boys pick the cars up and then just bring them back and we'll go through the process.
Now, the moment of truth. It's time to see what these cars are going to do.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, handle off.
Race after race after race. The excitement is unstoppable. Awards are handed out to these participants of the Pinewood Derby. However, all of these kids are winners in my book because they took their time, used their imagination, and put themselves on the fast track to woodworking at its most important level of form and function. Way to go, boys!
The Ellipse mask has 2 filters that are replaceable, and then it has an exhale valve. That's the feature that's going to keep your glasses from fogging up. It's got a nice soft contour, fit your face nicely, and 2 straps to keep it on your head nice and securely.
And it's not too heavy.
Yeah, it's not bad for, in fact, we think it's quite light for everything that it does.
Well, this is great. I'm going to take it home, give it a try, and we'll let you know.
Great.
Because you've got to wear a mask in the shop.
Yeah, the dust always, it's cumulative. You want to try to protect yourself at all times.
Well, thank you so much. Coming up,
So I like to have more than one.
get some sound advice for having multiple marking gauges on hand.
You're welcome.
He might not have a great place to park his cars, but he definitely has one of the best places to work wood. We'll take you to Matthew Teague's Music City workshop. You're watching the Highland Woodworker.
I'm just an average, down-to-earth woodworker. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm probably about a 5. But one place I score a perfect 10 is right here, and I plan on keeping all 10. That's why I have a SawStop table saw. And there's more. Plenty of power, superior dust collection, and absolute accuracy. These features have made it the best-selling cabinet saw in America. Let Highland Woodworking help you put a SawStop in your shop.
Order a SawStop professional cabinet saw from Highland Woodworking in March or April of 2015 and choose either one of these accessories for free. That's a $199 extra value. Are your tools Tormek sharp? Tormek, consistent, reliable, and razor sharp. Tormek, sharpening innovation.
Craig, from the first cut to the final assembly, providing woodworkers with products that help simplify woodworking challenges. Craig.
Forrest, manufacturer of the award-winning Woodworker 2, presents the PVW blade, designed specifically for the rip and cross-cutting of plywood and plywood veneers without splintering or chip-outs. Highland Woodworking has been a leader in woodworking education for over 30 years. They offer all kinds of woodworking classes year-round, ranging from how to hand-cut dovetails and mortises, to how to sharpen a plane or a chisel, how to build a cabinet, a chair, or a bookcase, or how to turn a wooden bowl. There are classes on wood finishing, French polishing, and even antique furniture restoration. For a list of upcoming classes that may interest you, go to highlandwoodworking.com. A marking gauge is an essential tool in every shop. Popular Woodworking's Megan Fitzpatrick has some tips, tricks, and techniques that you'll want to see. Megan, you've got a great assortment of marking gauges here. The Glenn Drake model, some Veritas,
And a Jeff Hamilton.
Jeff Hamilton.
An early Jeff Hamilton.
This is really cute.
No, Jeff, you're not getting it back.
Well, but tell me, why would somebody need more than one?
Because I'm inquisitive? No, that's not why.
All right.
Because if you're working on a project that has multiple mortise and tenon layout, or multiple layouts for dovetails or what have you, if you're doing half-blind dovetails, for example, if you have 2 marking gauges, you don't necessarily have to reset them and worry about losing your spot, if it were. Sometimes it's hard to get back to your setting. So I like to have more than one. And I actually have more than this. I have a few more. I have 4 of these tight mark gauges. I really think just with the adjustability of this thing is amazing. The micro adjust on it. So this is the gauge that I like the most, and that's why I have 4 of them, 2 small ones and 2 large ones at home. I didn't bring them all in because that would just look too disgusting, so I didn't do that.
How do you use them best? How do you get the most out of them?
Well, one thing that I see people doing, if I'm teaching or what have you, is that they will roll them. I should do it the right way on the edge here. They'll roll them instead of cutting with it. It's a cutting gauge. You should be pulling it. I find it's easier to pull it towards you. And I don't try to do it all in one fell swoop. I'll make especially on a harder wood like this maple, I'll make a number of passes to get my line. And then I have a nice line that I can drop my chisel into, say for trimming dovetails, or I can chop a little V in there and drop my chisel into it to form a nice wall. It's called a first class cut, frankly, by Robert Waring from his book from the 70s. So it's just a nice light touch on the first. Let's flip it around, do it again.
So the idea that it's
And
a
pull it.
wheel-type marking gauge is somewhat of a misnomer.
It is. You don't want to cut rolling, but what that does allow you to do is pick it up in any orientation and use it, unlike, say, a more traditional marking gauge. Well, this isn't really all that traditional, but unlike this one, it only works in one orientation. And it works well. I like Jeff's gauge, and what I like about this one is that this is so small that if I have to mark inside of a rabbit or something, the shoulder it's easy to get it in there. In fact, when I was building my anarchist tool chest, when I was marking out the hinges, this would not fit down into the mortise area because of the dust seal around the top. This worked perfectly, and that's why I always have one small gauge like this at hand at all times. So as much as I love this doesn't always work.
It's hard for some people to understand that there's a perfect tool for each application.
There really
almost.
is.
And
sometimes
so one doesn't usually always do it.
It doesn't always do it. One other thing we were talking about earlier off camera was how do you put these down? Sometimes the Glen Drake ones do tend to roll off the bench.
Sure.
And these little cutters, the wheel cutter, replaceable, easily replaceable. Kevin sells them on his website, of course. They may sell them at Highland Woodworking too. But they will break very easily. So, and you don't want to retract it, of course, because then you've lost your setting as well. So that's yet another reason to have a row of dog holes on your bench, and that's because you can drop the cutter down into it. Yeah. And as you mentioned, what did you do once?
The next thing we're going to do is repair this cut on the back of my hand, because you do not want
to touch that real hard and have
Right.
it scrape across your skin.
So you can keep your setting if you put it in this way for storage to get back to where you were.
Yes.
However, you might bleed on it and then it might rust. And
That's it.
that
There
would be
you go.
bad.
Yes.
And that is, of course, the worst problem that you would have. And now I have to pick it up by the cutter. See what you've done?
It's all
Okay.
my fault.
It's all
I'm
your
used
fault.
to that.
There's a whole community out there now that's younger that really doesn't have a way to learn this.
See why Master Woodworker Matthew Teague is really booking it now. Stay with us. You're watching the Highland Woodworker.
We're kind of a hub for all these different craftsmen that we build a team for each specific job. And our work is very much a hybrid of all these different trades. So architecture, furniture, children's playgrounds, big public art projects, exhibition builds, and then all sorts of random, unusual things. I'm William Hardy, and I'm the sort of main director and the founder of Studio Hardy.
Rycon Power Tools, a leader in woodworking power tools for over 10 years with a passion for quality and performance at an affordable price. Rycon has a full line of dependable tools, including a long list of industry-leading bandsaws like their new powerful 10-350 14-inch Professional. Rycon Power Tools, tools designed by woodworkers.
Do you need wood? Then go nowhere but Bell Forest Products. Come stand in awe of our 20,000 square foot showroom that houses over 75 species of exotic wood, the largest in the Midwest. What more could you want? A knowledgeable staff? Well, come in and speak to one of these handsome young men because they know wood. They breathe wood, they eat wood, they live wood, they love wood, they are wood. So plan your adventure to Bell Forest Products, 200 East Hematite Street, downtown Ishpeming, or visit us online at bellforestproducts.com. Because we got wood.
Introducing the ultimate flush trim router bit by Whiteside. Get CNC quality cuts from your patterns every time. Whiteside, industrial grade and American made. If you can't make it to Atlanta, then you can always shop us on the web at www.highlandwoodworking.com. Moment with the Master is presented by Triton Precision Power Tools. You may remember Matthew Teague is the editor of popular and fine woodworking magazines. Now he's turned a new page as a full-time woodworker and publisher. Let's spend a moment with this incredible master.
That's just always been real fulfilling work for me, woodworking, kind of hit the right chord.
Matthew Teague is what I like to call a triple talent in the woodworking industry. Not only does he build fabulous chairs and fine furniture, he is also a skilled writer and publisher. Growing up in Greenville, South Carolina, his back porch became a place where he and his dad would build and bond.
That was a way, I think, for my father and I, it was something we could do together, which is not always easy to find, but that always fit us well. I think I started building little chairs and just little trinkets and things when I was 8 to 12 years old and selling them at little craft stores. And so it kind of was my little introduction to both woodworking and capitalism at the same time.
Through those formidable years, he never stopped woodworking. When he became a student at Wofford College, he found something else to craft, stories. He was really good at it. Soon after graduation, Matthew became the literary editor for a magazine called The Oxford American. As the years rolled on, he just couldn't shake that woodworking bug.
And I always kind of had it in the back of my head if I could ever figure out a way to merge the two, where I could be behind the desk and work with writing and writers and words, and also be able to still make things and hopefully make a living out of it somehow. And I remember I was home one day at work, kind of a frustrating day at work, I think everybody has those, and was reading Fine Woodworking. It had just come in the mail. And I was flipping kind of from the back of the magazine to the front. And just as I was flipping through it, I remember thinking, boy, if I could ever work at a magazine like this, I could actually learn, to do what I want to do and still be doing kind of the same thing as an editor. And turn the page and there was an ad for a job, and just kind of picked up the phone at that moment and called the editor, who happened to be sitting at his desk. It was Scott Gibson at the time. And yeah, it was kind of a back and forth for a couple of months, and then I wound up moving to Connecticut.
Matthew spent the next 7 years as the editor of Fine Woodworking magazine, where he not only got to help tell the stories of woodworking legends, but was taught some valuable skills from them too. He took that inspiration and eventually followed his heart to Nashville, Tennessee, where his wife Sarah had already found a great job. And for the next few years, Matthew became a full-time furniture maker.
I was able to build this shop about 9 years ago. It's still small. It's about 700 square feet, a little over a 2-car garage. But I do mostly chairs, and chairs luckily are small, and it seems to work pretty well.
As he built this workshop, he also blogged about it, which became a big hit for many woodworkers like myself, wanting to do the same thing to their garage.
So welcome.
Hey, this is great. I can't believe that I'm standing in a shop that I saw you build on your blog about 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's been close to 10 years now. Yeah, it's still in the same shop. So had some changes, but for the most part, everything's set up pretty close to how it was then. But yeah, it's been a great shop. I've really enjoyed it, and it's right here at the house, so it's a short commute.
Well, I remember you had articles on lighting, you had articles on storage and where to put things, and it looks just beautiful. I think it's got probably a great flow to it too.
It does. A little dirtier now than it was in those days, but yeah, it works well. I think kind of all along I've had a workbench on this wall. This is kind of my hand tool area.
Sure.
Where I do the bench work and all of that. Kind of go over, and I've got a little sharpening area that keeps that pretty easy to get to. Can't stand a dull tool, and that makes it easy. Couple options there. And you know, over the years, everything has evolved and added a lot more tools in storage, because it's kind of a weakness of mine, the tools, and then you have to have somewhere to put them.
Sure. Well, this is just great, and you got your everyday workbench here.
That's the catch-all. Yeah, that's kind of where this is where I work most of the time, at one of these 2 benches.
Well, let's see some of your chairs in the rest of the shop.
Sure. Yeah, so I just pulled out a couple of different chairs. One of the things I mentioned was some chairs I made when I was a kid. This is not actually one I made when I was a kid. This is a chair, we always called them pouting chairs. My father and I made these when I was growing up. Made them for my nieces and nephews and stuff, but that's where the kid went for time out. And they were just nice little pieces to hand down.
I wish I'd had something that nice when I was sent to timeout when I was a kid.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. And then we have some others back here.
Yeah, this one I just always kind of had a soft spot for this piece. Talking about kids, this piece has been the chair that both of my kids kind of, after the high chair, they went to this one. It's filthy. I've got it out here. I need to sand it, get it cleaned up. But this is a chair out of Jeff Miller's book. He's got a great book on, I think it's called Chair Making and Design. And this is straight out of that book. And it really kind of ignited the whole kind of chair making obsession for me. It's one of those things that you hear a lot of woodworkers, once they make a chair, they're kind of doomed. And I think you've been through the same thing. It's hard to go back to square stuff.
Book, and it was my first chair making book. I think it is for a lot of people. Jeff does some great work, and
it does.
That's a beautiful chair. I could see that in its time.
Yeah, and a little sanding and a little more finish, it'll be back to it. Yeah, so I've always had a soft spot for that chair. And then I guess back at Fine Woodworking too, I took a class and worked a good bit with Brian Boggs just on articles he was doing. So I built one of his chairs at Brian's shop, and then this is a chair kind of shortly after that I started making. And you know, it's kind of a transition chair between the Jeff Miller chair I made and what Brian was doing, kind of melds the two worlds.
Sure, a little bit of a hybrid.
Sure.
Yeah, that's great. And this is something else here.
Yeah, no, this is a newer design, kind of like the seat on this. It's got kind of a tulip shape to it, which I really like. This is in sapele, and I've done this in a number of different woods, sometimes with an upholstered seat. I've done it with a woven seat. It's a nice little flexible design that I've enjoyed making.
It's got very nice lines, and the sculptured seat is really very well done. I love the little pommel there.
Yeah, it's a nice touch, and I get to use a big grinder to do those seats with, which is always, you get to open the doors up and make a lot of dust. That's the fun part.
There you go. Well, you can let your neighbor fool with the dust.
Exactly, on a good wind.
Matthew has been working out of this wonderful workshop for the past 9 years, and during that time he became a father of 2, 8-year-old Ava Jean and 5-year-old Locke, who are now learning the ropes of woodworking. He also became the editor at Popular Woodworking magazine and has worked on many fine furniture pieces which have been showcased in museums and galleries around the globe.
So part of the commission work that I've been doing while I've been in Nashville is partnering with a good friend named Alan Teague. I've always really liked collaborating with other woodworkers and designers and finding somebody who has some skills that I don't, and see if, putting the two together, sometimes you get an even better product. We're doing a lot of chairs now, but it started out with just a table we were building. Alan got a table job and was a little tight on time, so I gave him a hand with that, and it just has evolved over the years.
We've got, I think 6 or 7 pieces in the line now, and are constantly thinking about, what are new things and new ways that we can use a basic, simple idea that we have in the chair, which is essentially consists of a single rope that threads through continually throughout the whole chair. And if you look here, you can see that the rope, you see the rope in the frame, and so there's one continuous weave through the whole chair, and so that connects all of those individual blocks. So there's 2 holes that are drilled in every block, and so there's 55 feet of continuous rope that threads through the whole chair. So what happens is, you might imagine, when you sit in the chair, as you move or sit in the chair conforms and adjusts to your shape. And the real beauty of that is that it really eliminates pressure points. So it allows the chair to fit your body, and it really gives you, it's a nice combination of support and comfort.
Collaborating is something Matthew is doing a lot of these days. He recently teamed up with an old friend, Paul McGarren, and jumped into the world of book publishing under the banner Springhouse Press. Matthew is the editorial director of this up-and-coming publishing company. Their books run the gamut from woodworking, wood turning, skateboard building, to cooking, and even cosmetics.
There's a whole community out there now that's younger that really doesn't have a way to learn this, and so we're trying to make it exciting for them too.
Matthew always brings new excitement, exceptional quality, and a wide range of experience into every project he is involved with. His passion for life behind his workbench and away from it is what Matthew Teague hopes to be remembered by.
I just want to be a good father, is the first thing, a good father. In terms of woodworking, I've always just loved the craft, and I love to see people get into it, get excited about it. Anything I can do to kind of share that is great, whether it's from something I've made or from teaching someone in some way, either side by side or through something I've written. I always get a lot of fulfillment out of that. I love to see people get excited about the craft. Yeah, and I think publishing is now just kind of an extension of that. I love to take other people whose work is really not out there and introduce it to a new audience.
Well, I'm ready to try out the Ellipse P100 dust mask. No dust collection is perfect. As you can see when I sculpt my chairs, dust is sent airborne in all directions, even though I'm using a high-quality dust collection system. The Ellipse P100 is soft and it's pliable, and it fits the face comfortably, which means you'll wear it more often, and that's the most important thing. The filter captures 99.7% of particulates for beardless woodworkers like myself, but it varies for those that have beards. If you use it under a face shield, like I like to do while I'm sanding at the lathe, it fits nicely and lets you do what you need to do without getting in the way. The big features that sold me on the Ellipse P100 are the fact that it's so comfortable while you're working. And it has that ability to capture those harmful particulates. And it doesn't fog my glasses, so I can see what I'm doing. And it's reusable. All you have to do is, when your filters get all clogged up, is buy a new pair. They're replaceable. Put them in there and you're ready to go. And you're gonna give your lungs a break with an Ellipse P100 dust mask. And it'll put a smile in your woodworking. Improve your woodworking experience. Sign up for Wood News Online, a monthly newsletter showcasing the latest news, tips, and classes Highland Woodworking has to offer. By signing up, you'll receive the latest episode of the Highland Woodworker, special store promotions, and Wood News Online delivered straight to your inbox. Sign up today. Well, that's all the time we have left for this episode. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook. And until next time, I'm Charles Brock and I'm a Highland Woodworker.